Getting a large number of people with different opinions to agree on one extreme or another is nearly impossible. So why should the debate over minimum wage be any different? The controversy over minimum wage increase is one that would be best ended somewhere in the middle rather than at an extreme. Minimum wage will most likely keep increasing, so the best thing to do is increase it in a way that makes the equity side and efficiency side somewhat equally happy, or unhappy, however you look at it. Minimum wage has been around for nearly 80 years or so now, giving the population no reason to not know or have an idea or opinion about it. Well, we should all know what it is at least. However, a more important note to make is that we should all also now care about minimum wage. At some point in most people's lives, they will work a minimum wage job or at least have a job. Along with those jobs comes income, obviously. The amount that the minimum wage is set at affects us and all other workers and jobs more than we may think. Now, part of the debate is even about how minimum wage affects us, but we'll get to that later. Right now, after hearing that we should care, think about if you actually care. My first real job was working for my city in the summer, and the first summer I started out working at minimum wage. I hardly thought about the idea or amount of minimum wage. I was a junior in high school, it was my first true job, and the fact that I was going to be making my own money was all that mattered to me. Well, minimum wage is a big deal to a lot of people. So much, in fact, that there is a long-standing debate over its increase. There are two main sides to this debate. People earning minimum wage, politicians, writers, and even economic professor Robert E. Prash make up some of the side of the debate believing equity is more important than efficiency when it comes to increasing the minimum wage. Economists, professors, and researchers of economics, and again, of course, politicians, side with the fact that efficiency and being economically efficient is the best way to go when it comes to increasing the minimum wage. The major causes of the strong and long-lasting differences are as follows. Economists and such have a theory that increasing the minimum wage actually harms the people who want it the most, according to economic models and standards, along with other negative side effects like unemployment. On the other side, however, the belief is that an increase would overall make the quality of its earners' lives better. More solidly, though, is the idea that it could promote economic growth, rapid technical change, and has the capacity to equalize bargaining power in labor markets. Jumping right into the analysis of the con-increase side of things, Richard V. Burkhauser, a professor at Cornell University who focuses on how public policies affect the economic behavior of a population, and Joseph J. Sabia, a student at Cornell who writes for Front Page Magazine and the Cornell Daily Sun, argue that a raise in the minimum wage is not truly effective to anti-poverty policies due to the fact that most workers earning minimum wage come from non-poor families, while the most of the people who are from poor families actually earn more than the federal minimum wage. Looking back at that statement, it does not completely make sense to me. If the poor families are earning more than the federal minimum wage in comparison to the non-poor families who are actually earning the minimum wage, either the roles at some point could switch and or the non-poor families would not necessarily be pushing as hard for an increase as they are. Erzo F. P. Lutmer, a member of the National Bureau of Economic Research at Dartmouth, claims the negative outcomes following an increase in minimum wage are not only limited to unemployment, but could also be followed by an inefficient allocation of workers to jobs, meaning that people who are better suited for or in more need of a job may be overlooked. Lutmer's claim is effective, but yet I, along with others on the opposing side, still have the question of solid proof, proving that those are true and as largely pressing outcomes as he says. I do believe that this could be a problem, but without solid proof and research claiming otherwise, it is hard for me to know how much of an issue it actually is, if it is at all. Following along with finding a balance, instead of looking at the possible extreme negative, it would be more helpful for the economists and such to determine the quantity of negative outcomes at each or different price increases of the minimum wage, thus finding what increase would produce the least unwanted side effects. Turning to pro-increase, Robert E. Prash states in an article that English macroeconomists have had the notion that when the amount of income is more evenly distributed across the population, the quantity of spending increases along with the demand for goods and business revenue. I agree with Prash's statement that when more people are making an income greater than before, yet also similar to the rest of the population's income, their spending should increase. However, it is hard to know if that still holds true today considering the problems in our economy. If it were a solid fact, you would think the government would be taking greater action along those lines. This is one of those ideas that can be discussed with the con increase side believing the exact opposite. Another thing David Green from NPR adds is the emotional side of increasing minimum wage. In his article, he interviews Jamie Clark, a 24-year-old single mother to a 4-year-old. She is living with her parents and other siblings because even while working a minimum wage job most days and some nights, it is still not enough. The 70-cent increase to her means so much. It gives her hope that she will be able to provide for her son more than she can now. The fact that 70 cents means so much to people earning minimum wage should also mean something to those economists who believe the worst about increasing minimum wage. Yes, economic efficiency is important, but shouldn't equity and the quality of people's lives be just as important? Finding an agreement or a balance is obviously easier said than done. If not, there would be no need to debate for so long. A key is to somehow make both sides more aware and caring of each other's opinions, like going through and finding things to somewhat agree with or even things to consider. People with a strong desire for an increase need to become more conscious of the possible outcomes economists describe, whether proven to be 100% accurate or not. They need to understand that more negative than positive effects could occur. Likewise, the economists need to take a deeper look into what a life earning minimum wage is really like. It's easier for them to make a stand against an increase while they're observing or discussing from afar. Watching the 30 Days film on minimum wage, reading Nickeled and Dimed by Barbara Ehrenreich, or just going out and seeing for their own eyes what life is really like could be a great start. Seeing, hearing, and understanding where the opposing side comes from is the first step.